Our guest tonight first began performing professionally in 2005, initially finding inspiration in bluegrass and acoustic roots music. They began a musical journey toward a sound both traditional and modern, a sound informed by the blues but filtered through their own unique musical DNA. Their 2017 album, Peach, demonstrated their powerful commitment to blues forms and gave audiences more than a hint of their musical direction. They're here tonight following the release of their fifth album entitled Venom and Faith, nominated for Best Contemporary Blues Album at the 62nd Annual GRAMMY Awards. Give it up for Larkin Poe. And we busted out the comfy chairs. You know, this is
so
all
posh.
This is nice, right?
Yeah.
Right. We
very.
got like new carpets. I'm very excited. I don't know why that's doing that. Help! We know how to do this. Oh, look at that. Thank you very much. We're very, very excited. I think we've actually been trying to get you guys here for a while. I'm glad this worked out, and congratulations,
Thank
of course,
you. Thank you.
on the Grammy nomination.
It's a long haul from Nashville. It's nice to be here.
So we'll talk about the Grammy stuff in a minute. We'll kind of set that aside because I want to talk about this record. And first and foremost, I want to talk about the title of the record, Venom and Faith, because I'm always interested in titles and why artists choose titles. Tell me what Venom and Faith means to you.
It's actually pulled from lyrics of one of the songs, which is Honey, Honey. And there's a line in which Venom and Faith is referenced.
Yeah.
And we thought that it really painted a kind of evocative picture of the American South. We're like I mentioned upstairs, we were born in Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, and then our parents raised us in northern Georgia. So culturally, there's a lot that goes on, you know, in the hills of Georgia, and we wanted to portray a piece of that, the positive side of that.
Yeah.
Do not think about banjos.
Yeah. Well
do
done.
not do it.
Well done. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yes. Most people would go to Deliverance on
I
some
know,
of that.
I know.
So we don't want that.
We lived not far from that alleged county, Fannin County.
But here's the thing about you know when I think of Venom and Faith, and then also listening to the record a little bit, you know, so much of blues music in particular comes from a spiritual place. Mm-hmm. In that, and it could be a personal spirituality, it could be a more universal kind of woe is me, the world working against me sort of thing. And I'm wondering for you if that sense of spirituality is what drew you to the blues.
I think the timelessness of the lyric is one. We are really drawn to these songs that people were singing about, like the human spirit and the human condition, like 100 years ago, and we can still sing those lyrics today, and they ring really true.
Yeah.
And yeah, like religion and spirituality is definitely a part of that, and I think that it resonates with us.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I think there's always the question of mortality and the nature of the human soul, which, you know, is like asking questions that, you know, only dead men have the answers to, which I think is what drives so much of the human experience like you're talking about and the predicament that we all find ourselves in. Like I love the, what is that B.B. King live blues power record where he's talking about what it means to have the blues. And he's like saying, you know, a baby that can't get its milk fast enough, that baby has the blues, or like, you know what I mean? And I think that there's a large portion of truth that he's serving up with that type of an observation, because it all manifests for each and every one of us in a different way what it means to have the blues. Yes. And that's like a question that never gets old to ask, you know?
We had the great blues guitarist here last week, Walter Trout.
Ooh-wee.
Was here, who, by the way, tore the house down. I gotta say, when he played, but he too comes at it from this very grounded spiritual place. That this is not just about making music. Yeah. This is about a connection in his soul between what he does and I think that's kind of what I hear when I listen, particularly to Venom and Faith. But speaking of that, you know, listening to the record, it's very stripped back in a sense. This is not a lot of kind of overly produced tracks. It's really a very stripped back sound. And some of the songs have a certain level of vulnerability in them. And for you guys, was that important to strip it back? Because look, nowadays you can line up 10 of those and rip and roar your way through a recording. And I'm wondering if it was important for you guys to get back to something a little more organic.
Very much. Absolutely. We definitely went into the record making process wanting to do that. Because we did this cover video series where it's just the two of us.
Tip of the hat.
Tip of the hat.
I was going to ask you guys about that. All right, you beat me to it.
Yeah, so we do this series, and we love just sitting in the bedroom, just the two of us playing. So we kind of wanted to bring some of that energy to the record as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was born in '91, and so we grew up in an era when making records is a very different experience than a lot of the artists that we revere would have moved through.
Sure.
We do have infinite tweakability. We are able to sit and pick ourselves apart
And layer and layer and layer and layer and
until
layer.
it becomes this inhuman masterpiece. Like I love Queen, but I don't think that I don't have the voice to carry off picking 18 stacked versions of my voice.
Yeah.
So I think trying to deconstruct was a large part of our production process.
Right. Well, and two songs in particular strike me, in this vein: "Good and Gone" and "Ain't Gonna," and particularly "Good and Gone" because it's almost a cappella, in a sense. What was the inspiration for that song?
Well, we were playing around with me when I love to sing with Rebecca, but I really consider my lap steel more of my voice than my actual voice. So we really wanted to have a song where I was singing along with her on the lap steel. So it's just her vocal and then my lap.
Yeah.
So I kind of wrote this riff, and then she sang along on top of it, and that's the whole idea.
And also, I think a very heavy-handed front person in that I kind of write the majority of the songs, and can be fairly hard-headed when it comes to the material that we perform. But Megan brought that song completely finished, and it's my favorite song on the record because it provides Megan's lyrical perspective, which I thought was so beautiful. Beautiful.
I love how you guys get along like this. This is fantastic.
We're in our late 20s now.
But I do want to talk about your song. I do want to talk about your songwriting in 1 second. But thinking about the blues genre, because when you say the word blues to a listener, everyone comes to that with a certain preconception. And rightly or wrongly, it's just, it's kind of in our musical DNA, whatever your particular understanding of the blues is. And you guys, not only you honor that form, but you push beyond it. And I'm wondering if you have to always remind yourselves to get beyond what would be standard or traditional or conventional.
Ooh, I don't know that it's really handy to be in a duo. And so you sort of have, an even balance between Megan's and my perspective on keeping each other in line.
Yeah.
So typically, if I start getting a little high-handed with a production, Megan's like, and so we stop and we scale it back. So it is nice that we kind of have a check and balance between the two of us to keep it very natural and keep it very raw. But I agree with you. I think there is a lot of preconceived notion attached to the title blues.
Sure.
And I think that that's something that was so inspiring for us in the last couple of years was discovering the era of blues beyond, I think, conventional modern blues, digging into Skip James and Bukka White and these guys that were cross-tuning their guitars and singing even somewhat of a hybrid between bluegrass and blues and Americana, these American root songs. And I think that's what really captured our imagination and wanting to continue to be purveyors of that era of the blues,
Well, and speaking of Skip James, you guys take on, Hard Time Killin', which, iconic song in the blues canon. Totally respect the fact that you guys took it on. That's super cool. But how do you approach something like that, which is, in that world, top of the heap? How do you make it yours? Where do you find Megan and Rebecca in that song?
I think we've had a lot of practice doing these, of taking our favorite songs, make it sound like Larkin Poe. So it's kind of, when we approach the song, we approach it in the same way as one of these other rock songs that we've done in the past. We kind of sit down and strip it back, just the two of us, and it happens actually pretty natural
At this point. But I think
it's
also,
taken practice.
but it's also accepting, because like you use the word canon, which inspires a sense of reverence, which is so, I think, it aligns very much with the way that we view the music of Skip James. But also you think about the time in which Skip James performing a lot of those songs, it was oral tradition. People were ripping each other off. They would take a bit, they would change it. So I think trying to approach a lot of the covers that we pick with regard to specific blues tunes and be comfortable with the practice of tweaking it and changing it. And if there's a lyric that speaks to you more than others, sing that, change it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that anybody would be mad at you for putting your spin, because that's what's authentic, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be a time capsule.
Yeah. You
certainly.
gotta make it live, for you. And the other thing, look, let's be perfect. The blues form was, in many ways a male-dominated form. Yes, there were many female blues singers, and I do not wish to disparage or demean any of them. But it's widely recognized as sort of a male-dominated genre. And to bring your perspective to these songs and the way it sounds, to my ears, and I'm wondering how you feel about this, kind of subverts the whole dynamic to a certain degree of what people traditionally understand as the blues.
Which, I mean, we had no say in how we came out of the womb. Like we just happened to be girls.
And if you did, you could make a lot of money.
But it's true. I mean, it is interesting that becomes a functioning factor, because you're totally right. There was a period in which, a lot of female singers were the pop, they were the forefronters for, putting blues music into pop very early on. But then at a certain point, it whittled back, and I see no good reason for that. And it's nice to have grown up listening to Bonnie Raitt and to Susan Tedeschi and to Big Mama Thornton and to all these people, Rosetta Clark, that was like killing it, and to have those role models and to hopefully serve as yet another role model for generations moving forward. It just needs to be done,
And the other thing that I believe gets forgotten in many great academic tomes that have been written, back in the day, in the 20s and 30s or whatever, blues was pop music.
Yes.
This is what people listen to. It's not like these artists were writing these songs just because, they happened to think it was cool. It was a way to make money. This was the popular music of the day. So, we're not so far removed from a time when blues had a certain standing that was not necessarily. So I mentioned songwriting, and I'm fascinated to know kind of a little bit about what starts a song for you? Title, lyric, riff?
All the above. I think songwriting is the thing that scares me most in life, and it's the thing that I in equal measure love the most. When we're on tour, I sing the majority of our set, and so we'll be doing, 90-minute, close to 2-hour sets every night. And so when we're touring, I'm unable to write because I'm having to save my voice. So when we're touring, I keep a journal and just write down fragments of lyric ideas and bits and pieces. But when I'm home, I love to just sit, and usually it starts with a guitar riff, just messing around. But it's a very personal thing that I think I've taken very much to heart. I'm obsessed with songwriters because you're asking people to condense a human emotion that can be relatable into, 100 words or less. And we were talking about Ray Wiley Hubbard, and he's like a guy that has so much stank and vibe.
Our hero.
And you hear him, and you just know it's Ray because he's singing from his heart. Or you hear a Tom Petty, or you hear a Skip. You hear people that just carry this weight, and I so desperately want that for our band, and I aspire to. I'm like a cat. I'm getting distracted, sorry. But it's true. I think that songwriting manifests itself in many different ways. And that's the beauty of it.
When you have an idea, how far does it get kind of fleshed out before before you guys work on it together?
We've changed that process because it's not Larkin Poe until Megan comes and plays on it. I can make demos all day long.
Yeah.
And if you just hear it without Megan playing slide and singing, it doesn't sound like us.
Yeah.
So typically I'll write melody and lyric for verse and chorus, but I will not touch the riffs. I will wait for my sister to come in and put her stank on the situation. Yeah.
So there, listening to the record, I mean, there are tracks solid, Mississippi,
Yeah.
Hard Time Killing Floor, whatever it might be. But there are other tracks that go, kind of off where where you wouldn't expect them to go. Put it that way. And there is a certain level of modern production. There are some 808 kind of gene things going on. Tell me about working, in the studio. I know you guys produced this record. Well, kind of separate discussion, but do you guys like that process of experimentation in the studio?
When we're getting along, yes.
Now we're
No,
getting to something here.
I feel very lucky that Rebecca does all the programming for the record as well. So she actually will create kind of using organic and bring them to needs.
So
check out,
when you
and-
say using organic sounds, that
So if you're slamming a cabinet door, if you're stomping, if you're clapping, if you're snapping, like I prefer sound palettes to traditional drum kits, just to my ear, and that's something that we've been inspired by in the studio specifically because we've never made a record live in the studio full band. Like on Venom and Faith, we played everything except for some snare drums.
Yeah, it was
and
you,
some
it was
horns.
you and Roger. basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But you remind me. So my favorite all-time Tom Waits quote, who said, "I'm the kind of band leader. When I say bring the Fender, I mean the Fender off the Dodge."
That's why I love Tom Waits. But it's true. I think
good.
that's where the magic happens when
Yeah.
you're willing to think outside the box.
Right.
Then I think you open yourself up for the possibility of having more unique moments.
Yeah.
You know?
So I mentioned Roger Allen Nichols, your producer, your engineer, and I
Yeah.
think you've worked with him on at least two
Yeah.
records, something like that.
Yeah.
So why? Because it's really just the three of you.
Mhm.
Why does that work so well? Why does that collaboration work well? What does he do that allows you guys to kind of achieve the vision for the music?
It lets us be able to step away from the computer, and he kind of handles recording, and he has also helped us find the right sounds for our guitar. So we'll
Yeah.
describe what we're looking for, and he helps.
But we also went in very high and mighty with Roger, and we were like, this is going to be a situation in which we produce the record, having no idea how to produce a record. And I think the restraint that Roger has showed over these last two records, and now actually a third, we have a third in the can.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
We'll
They
talk about
just
that.
Finished a record.
but he,
Very supportive, very much. I'm gonna step back. And
yeah, tough love.
Yeah.
And saying,
Right.
hey, you're producing the record. You can't ask me what I think. You have to figure it out. Like if you want to like wear the big boy pants and
I
wear
like
the big boy
that.
pants. And I think that really helped us
Yeah.
very quickly define our production voice as sisters
and
because
step into the role.
yeah,
fully.
totally.
Right. When you guys are in the studio, especially now, given all of the modern, I mean, you can tweak things literally endlessly.
Yeah.
And there's no end to it. Do you prefer to work quickly, to kind of capture a moment, or will you guys labor over?
It depends. It depends on the moment, but we have really seen the wisdom in working fast. Because the majority of the records that we love, they contain human errors because
Right.
everyone is human and that's what you seek.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
want to hear a computer
We
that's
want-
tuned to voice.
Yeah, but we want to be perfect, especially out of the box.
yeah,
Right.
And so it's hard to hear yourself
raw.
singing maybe off pitch, or maybe
Right.
you're not playing in time. That's hard to hear, but sometimes if you let it sit, it becomes your part. So we have tried to work fast
Mhm.
to stop ourselves from
Yeah.
part.
Because you don't, and I had a producer here who said one of the things you don't want to have happen is to work on something so long that the artist starts to hate it.
Mm.
You know, and that can happen if you're just constantly kind of going back over for a
It's
while.
so true.
You just gotta.
And this
go.
was, I think, with this most recent record that we just finished, we had our firsthand experience with that because previously, we've been able to get in and finish things. I mean, in like 10 days, a long weekend for Peach, our first record that we did most recently, and with this record from December until now, I lost my voice. I had some sort of laryngitis in the middle of making the record, and so we had to sit and stop for about 2.5, 3 weeks because I thought I was better, and then I went in and belted a bunch of songs, and I lost my voice for a second time, and it was this big, drawn-out process, and it was really challenging to sit there with these half-finished songs and convince yourself to stick with them, because there's so much of the human psyche that's like, start over, throw that out, start again, and choosing to stick with it through that process, and you get to the other side, and you realize, oh, wow, I am so driven by my emotions, I really need to just calm down and let the creative process pull me along to reach the end. Because you can start to hate it as an artist. Very impatient.
No question. We were talking about Hard Time Killing Floor, and there's another on this record, but what does a song have to make you want to cover it?
Ooh. Good question.
It's my job.
And you do it well.
Thank you.
With great panache and pizzazz. I mean, the suit jacket. I think it typically boils down to something that we wish we'd written, or where you hear yourself. Like, because I know how I approach songwriting, and when you hear a song that you're like, oh, I totally feels instinctual to me, and then we lust after the song and we have to cover it. Like, oh, I wish that had been something that we wrote.
You got a couple covers on this new record that you're.
We have one.
Yeah,
One
we have
cover
one.
on the new record.
Yeah, Blind Willie Johnson.
Cool. Love this. All right. Well, we'll talk. We'll get to that in a minute. We mentioned Tip of the Hat, which was this super cool. You're going to do more of those, or is that done forever?
Oh no, we did one. What, a week and a half ago?
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I should pay attention. But I mean, I love the whole concept behind it, and I'm wondering how much of that, because you've been doing it for a while, how much of that kind of informed the work, not only on Venom and Faith, but Peach. You know, how much of doing that kind of informed what you would ultimately go and record?
I would say it was immediate relation.
Yeah. Had a big impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even just as artists, you are what you consume. I think that we really do believe that, the more that you listen and the more that you learn, when you actually go out and you try to embody someone else's work, you learn so much in doing that. So I think this Tip of the Hat, it really started out very selfish for us because we realized that we as sisters together, we were stagnating musically, because like she would go home and practice her lap steel, or I would go and practice guitar riffs, but learning something together and trying to make it sound like Larkin Poe, we learned so much by doing that with Tip of the Hat again and again, like you mentioned earlier. And I think that had a direct impact on the way that we approached making our record.
And then also, a couple of those videos went viral, and we had a lot of people asking us for a record that sounded stripped back like cover videos. Oh, God.
Yeah.
And so that kind of gave us like the support to want to go and do that.
Sure.
So yeah, we owe a lot to those videos.
Yeah. I had an artist here not too long ago who said every record they made is a reaction to the last record they made. And I'm wondering for you guys, how much is Venom and Faith a reaction?
So much of it. Yeah, so much of it. I think it's a daunting process as a songwriter and as artist when you think about finishing a record and then you have to start from scratch again. Because you've learned so much from the previous record that you've made, but you do need to turn a page and create a new chapter and tell people what's next in the story. Yeah. So moving from Peach into Venom and Faith, it was really exciting because we knew that we wanted to build off of Peach and provide more of a personal perspective. It really drove us to include more songs that we thought were pushing some more genre boundaries, just because we wanted to play. We wanted to mess around with the hip hop beats and with, fill in the blank of whatever random horn section idea I wanted to put on the record, and Megan was on board with the idea, and it was and it was great. You know,
Yeah.
we did learn so much.
Yeah.
I think Venom and Faith definitely, it continued down the path that Pete created.
Yeah. You know, you talked about this earlier. Your lap is very much kind of the third piece. What has that allowed you to do, the lap steel in particular? You know, how has that expanded the boundaries for you creating?
Well, I think it has had a huge impact on our sound. I think the slide, I mean, we grew up listening to the Allman Brothers, you know, we grew up, so I think that slide has always been in our minds. So I think to me, it's just like a partner to.
Yeah. Want to go. Tell me about growing up in North Georgia, and what music were you hearing around the house? Do you guys remember hearing?
Oh yeah.
When you were growing up?
Our dad was a big classic rock dude, so anything from Black Sabbath, who Ozzy's my favorite singer of just about all time.
My first concert.
too.
1974.
I'm so jealous.
Black Sabbath.
I'm
Black
deeply
Sabbath.
jealous of you. Not
And
just
guess who
for the-
opened? Hold on.
Who?
This gets better. Blue Oyster.
Oh, come on.
Oh, yeah.
Providence Civic
Come
Center,
on.
1974.
That's so good.
That's
Look it up.
good.
Yes,
That is-
I'm old.
Yeah, you're giving away your age.
Yeah.
No, but you know, anything from Ozzy and Blue Oyster Cult to like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and like really singer-songwritery stuff. And, we were really lucky to grow up in a household where music was always being played.
Yeah.
And
You guys, piano and violin
Yeah.
at first. Am I right?
Yeah, we started out in violin when she was 3 and I was 4. God bless our mother. She drove us to those
Sawing
lessons
wood.
and listened to that.
Yeah.
the violins were literally cardboard because they didn't make them.
Really?
They didn't make real violins small enough.
Oh.
They sounded so
Wow.
bad. They
Wow.
sounded terrible.
But there came a turning point, and you have to correct me on the facts here if I get them wrong. Where you went to a bluegrass festival?
Yeah.
Am I right about this?
Merle Fest.
Merlefeld. Oh, okay, well that's a good one. So tell me about the experience and why it was so affecting to you.
Yeah. Of course, as classical musicians, you grow up reading off the page. And I think going to a bluegrass festival and having our eyes opened unto the glory of improvisation.
Yeah, we had never seen that before. And the joy that had on.
Yeah.
It was intoxicating for us.
It wasn't
Considering-
work.
It wasn't
Yeah.
work, yeah. And I think that we always got really nervous for recitals because it felt like so much pressure. And I think that kind of approach to music, while some people thrive in that setting for music, and I think a lot of people find a lot of joy
Yeah.
in the discipline and the, you know, the very proper way of doing things. I think we were very nervous by that approach to music, especially having grown up listening to records in which there was electric guitar and there was more informality and more personal creative expression.
Sure.
That it took us quite a few years to unbraid a lot of that, the pressure. I remember like the first bluegrass gig that we ever played, because we went to that bluegrass festival, literally quit all our lessons. Our mom was a bit pissed, but she got on board. She was like, all right, whatever you want. But then we got banjos and mandolins and guitars. And about 6 months later, we were like, we're playing a bluegrass gig. So we went to Signal Mountain, Tennessee, and we brought sheet music on stage with us. I'm not even kidding. We were so nervous, and we thought that we would forget how to do our thing, that we've been practicing like wholeheartedly for weeks, that you can find footage of it. It's incredibly embarrassing. With like little
Don't
classical,
go find it.
It's so bad.
What was the repertoire? What were you playing?
We did some Bob Wills. We were a traditional bluegrass band. I was playing the banjo. Megan was playing her dobro. It's really funny because at the time we felt like we were super edgy. Like we were listening to Nickel Creek and Alison Krauss, and we were like, we're cutting some edges here. We were so bluegrass. It was not even, like the tight 3-part harmony, angel band, gospel stuff. It was really fun though.
When did you start playing dope?
I tried to play mandolin and banjo and guitar, and I did not. So I started playing probably at age 13 or 14.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I saw dobro.
Just found a bar in your hand was just a better way to
I saw it being
go.
played, and I was like, that's it. That is what I want to
I
play.
can do that.
And I think we listened grew up listening to Alice Krauss featuring
Yeah.
Jerry Douglas, so I think that I had been hearing that sound for a long time, but I didn't.
Yeah.
So when I saw it, I was immediately
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah. It's in
He's-
another in
Oh,
another
yeah.
world.
So true.
In another world. You were fortunate, I guess, I think, to meet Elvis Costello
Yeah.
when you were teenagers. How did you come to meet him?
At
Merle
Merle
Fest.
Fest.
No.
Again.
All roads lead to Merle Fest.
It's true. A couple years later, we were asked to perform, and so we were playing on the cabin stage, which is about the size of a postage stamp. And Elvis was headlining the festival. But again, the beauty of a bluegrass festival, they have a super jam, and so at the time, we were getting up because we were fearless children, getting up with everybody that we could. Somebody would start playing a song that we knew, and we would like get out on stage and like try to take part. And so Elvis was singing a gospel tune that we knew, and we went over and crowded around him, not knowing who he was, and just started singing harmony. I swear to you, because I only knew My Aim Is True and him in that picture, and it was a very different picture of a man. Like, you're looking at someone who's deep in his career. This would
Yeah.
have been when we were like 16, 17-ish. And so we made really good friends, and he's become an incredible champion and mentor for us
Yeah.
over these years.
How,
He's
how,
the first
how
guy.
has he been a mentor? Because you've talked about this.
He's the first guy that I will send song demos to, and he'll write me back what he thinks of the songs.
Wow, that's
It's real, and I
top shelf
cherish
songwriter
it.
right
Like,
there.
I really
Yeah.
cherish that.
Yeah.
And I think that we're always gung ho, and I think we, in a lot of ways, by being side guys in various projects for other people over the years, like, we've learned how to be team players.
Mm.
And a lot of that can be credited to Costello because
Yeah.
he had immense trust in us in allowing us to get up on stage. And he did a couple of tours where it was Elvis and Megan and I, like, right and left of him, acting as his backup band. And to be given that kind of a gift of, I believe in you, I trust you to play my songs and to back me up, get in there and do it. I'm going to throw you curveballs. I'm going to do songs you don't know, and I expect you to follow me. That you really measure up, and you feel the pressure in a good way, and you show up. Right.
Also, I was terrified on stage so much with him that I think I got over any like stage fright that I had, because
Yeah.
you just never knew what he was gonna do.
Really?
It was
Yeah.
terrifying.
Loose
Yeah.
cannon. Like, he loved, he loved to go. He would you'd be in the tree with Elvis Costello, and he is looking over to find the skinniest portion of branch that he can possibly get you out on, and pray that it supports your weight. And if it breaks, sometimes it would break, but sometimes it wouldn't. And the elation of getting through a dangerous moment, he loves the danger. And I think that we learn so much from him. He's special.
And it is fun. We kind of seek it out now.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
We
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, at some point along the way, you guys decided to plug in.
Yeah.
Which presents a whole another kind of level of complication. Did you find it, especially early on, did you find it challenging to all of a sudden have, drums and bass and amplifiers and, the sound on stage like perhaps you had not heard before?
Yeah, very much so. I think it was a tiptoe by tiptoe into the water, because initially, I mean, I was like, I'm gonna learn how to play electric guitar, not ever having played guitar except for maybe just knowing some basic chords on an acoustic. And going from that, I went to the store, and because of Costello, I bought a Jazzmaster and like
Of
a
course.
big ass like Fender like twin reverb, not understanding the idea of wattage and what that meant. Like, the bigger the amp, the louder it is. No idea. It was like, sign me up. And I was terrified because it was so loud. Because we had always played acoustic instruments growing
Yeah.
up, and learning how to deal with distortion pedals and sheer volume.
Yeah.
It took a long
Well,
time.
there's a whole technique
Yeah.
around controlling that power
I'm
so it
still
serves
figuring
you
it out,
rather
yeah.
than controls you.
But having grown up listening to classic rock so much,
Yeah.
I think we were searching for that
Yeah.
sound too.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to figure out how to get.
So one of the things I have to ask. So obviously you are a sibling band. Now, there is a long history in rock and roll of sibling bands. Some work great, some not so much, for lots of reasons. How does this work? How are you guys sisters? How do you navigate? Is it good? Is it challenging? How does that work between the two of you?
I think we've unraveled over the years that our relationship as sisters is the everything of our band. And I don't think that
And our lives.
Absolutely. Honestly, we've had many conversations because it takes many conversations. I think we have been a lot of things to each other for many, many years. Not only we're 21 months apart, so we're very, very close in age, and it was the girls. Megan and I were the girls in our family, and best friends into musical partners, into bandmates, into business owners, into producers, into still all the while being sisters and needing to have respect and understanding between the two of us when you're oftentimes in a touring situation, when you're touring on a shoestring budget. I mean, literally losing money on tours for us many, many years. It's hard to treat people with etiquette. You know, you want to just be like, shut up, like don't even look at me right now. But as sisters, we could not do that. Because I'm serious, if we were to pull that kind of crap with each other, it would be like immediate.
Yeah.
And I think that is the volatile beauty and power of sibling duos, is that we know each other so well, and when we're on the same page, it's like we are the same page, and that's so special, and we cherish it. And I think we have been motivated to work on our relationship and to have trust and understanding, and
We realize now how dysfunctionally intertwined we are, and we
Yes.
appreciate
That
it.
too.
We love it.
That too. No, but true.
Look, nothing that a couple $100,000 of psychotherapy can't
I know,
can't
man.
unpack.
No, but our mother and father.
I'm 30, and we've not spent more than 2 weeks apart from each other in 28 years.
Yeah.
So
Whoa.
it's been a
Wow,
lot.
that's sort of stunning. Yeah.
It's a crazy number, and it's absolutely true. And
Right.
and it's also something that I would never trade that for anything.
Sure.
Like if at any point in time music got in between Megan and I, which it never could because we share it so integrally with each other, it would go away because we've been able to see the world together and to be very fulfilled and work hard together and have exciting things happen and be able to have our parents fly out and come to the Grammys with us. Like, that's so cool.
that's
you know
cool.
what I mean? It's
That's
really special.
That's a good one. I gotta say. That's a good one.
Thank you for clapping. That's very sweet. Thank you.
Do you guys find, because also there's a long history in music of sibling harmony, whether it's the Louvin brothers or the Everly brothers, many other examples. Have you found, and did you find early on that the singing, it just came naturally in terms of where you would find the harmonies, and it wasn't really a stretch per se?
It's never been a stretch. The only thing that's really obnoxious is that we have an older sister, Jessica, and so initially we toured with her as our lead singer, and then we were kind of like the left and the right doing the harmonies, and so Megan was always the low third and I was always the high third to make the chord. And so even now, and it happens with frightening like regularity, we'll be in the car singing a song like with the radio, and then we turn the radio off and we're still singing the song, and each of us will automatically split to the harmony parts without there being a melody. No one's singing the melody. So then it just sounds like absolute trash because we're both just singing harmony like an invisible person. But yeah, I mean, getting to sing with each other, it's very effortless, and there is something to the texture of the vocal and the way that we say our words the same way, and everything, it all kind of comes to be that sibling thing, and it's special.
So Venom and Faith came out in 2018. So you've had quite a chance to take these songs out and play them for audiences. And I often discuss with artists that there is a difference between working on these things in the studio and getting them just the way however you want them, and then you take them on stage and it becomes almost a different song, in to a certain degree. How have these songs changed?
They have changed a lot. We do travel with drums and bass,
Sure.
so we're fairly full sounding on stage. I think, it is interesting how songs just take on a life of their own on the road. And we did do a lot of touring last year, so these songs saw a lot of different places in the world and had a lot of audience.
But I think especially given that the record is programmed using organic sounds, and then you're expecting our drummer to learn it on a drum kit, like it was, I think, a really interesting learning process of kind of retailoring this record into a live show. And in a lot of ways, I mean, I very much treasure the touring that these songs have seen, and they have two different lives, certainly. Yeah.
Well, and now especially, working, well, even going back to the bluegrass days, but working with a band now, music is inherently a collaborative art form. I mean, yeah, plenty of people kind of do solo things, but inherently it's a collaborative art. What makes you guys good collaborators?
Ooh.
Or not,
No,
as the
I
case
like
may
it. No,
be.
we really are good collaborators. And I think it has more to do not with individual strength as it does with our strength when we both come together in the middle. I think we've both learned how to be very patient and that there are no bad ideas, because when you're in the studio and you're vulnerable and you're behind the microphone and you're having to sing something for the first time, or you're trying to figure out the arrangement for something, you're asking for space and for trust in allowing the right thing to come, and you're hoping that the right thing will occur. And I think we've grown comfortable with not knowing and believing together that, okay, well, if we both think about this and we listen to it and we honestly try to find which idea is best and try to remove ego from it, then we're able to typically find something that we both like.
Honestly, I will say a lot of it has to do with getting rid of your ego. I mean, you have to have a certain amount of ego to do what, but I think when it comes to creating, you have to take that, like, the best idea has to win. Because for me, sometimes, since I don't write a lot of songs, but I can write, but she's the one who is going to be singing them, so she has to believe. So for me, I have to, like, let that go, let my, whatever I want my words to be heard, let that go and let her idea win, because that's what's going to be great for both of us. So I think if you can do that, it works well. It works really well for us.
And by the same token, when there's a solo to be taken, because it's what makes sense, and because it's what sets us apart, and nothing gives me more joy than hearing her take a rip and slide. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is trying. That's a work in progress, because ego.
But it's also just
pervasive,
finding the space to allow each of you to do what you do.
Yeah, totally.
There you go.
Hey.
He's like, just solved it for you, ladies.
So we talked about touring, and I was looking at your website or whatever, but you guys are about some European tour or whatever, and you're actually doing a show here in Los Angeles on March 28th
at the Fonda.
We're at Fonda Theater.
We're so excited.
So we will see all of these people there, I'm sure. But one of the things I noticed was there's a blues festival in India.
Yes.
That's our first gig of the year.
We've never been.
Okay. How many people knew there were blues festivals in India? I was not aware of this. You guys ever been there before?
No.
It's our first.
I'm fascinated by this. Okay, so when you go, you have to come back and report back to us and let us know how that goes. But the main question, how have you evolved as performers?
I would say we learned the most this previous spring. I'm trying to make sure I'm saying the right thing because she's looking at me with intense eyes. I would say when we were on tour with Bob Seger this past winter, and we had never.
I'll take it farther
That's
back
a good
if
one.
I can.
Go.
We went out on the road with Keith Urban,
Yes.
and that was our first time doing a tour of arena.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And watching him, he has such command of an audience.
He's amazing.
And he really connects with people. It's incredible to watch. So I think that we learned a lot from him, how to perform on a large stage like that. And it was perfect. It was leading right into opening for Bob Seger.
Yeah.
And so we knew what it felt like to play on a stage like that and interact with an audience that size. So it was just I feel like we made leaps and bounds here.
Yeah.
But I do think it's monkey see, monkey do, because getting to be on stage with Keith and getting to be on stage with Costello or getting to watch Seeger every night, you're seeing people who have dedicated the large portion of their lives to performing, and you absolutely pick up the bits and the pieces and the hand motions and the things that, like, cool people do. And,
Well, you got-
and you totally,
But
I'm
also-
not even kidding. Like, because Bob Seger has this thing that he does, and I tried to do it, and I was like, that doesn't, that's not quite for me. But you have to try it.
But it's a big room. You got to fill it up.
Totally.
You
You're
gotta
trying to
fill it
connect
up.
with the people in the back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
So,
awesome.
so fair warning. We're going to ask for a couple questions from the house here in just a minute. But I want to ask you, because you guys have used an interesting description, talking about blues and roots music as the source music of the South, which I find fascinating, and it's important to you, in a sense, to represent your roots. Why? Why is it? Why is kind of that representation and that music?
For me as a songwriter, and I want to hear what you have to say, and I'm sorry, I'm the loudmouth sister, but we grew up hearing a lot of stories about the generations that led to us, our father's people, our mother's people. And really, there's a lot of very dramatic stories about our father's side of the family during the Great Depression, living in Alabama, poverty-stricken, these people that were struggling so hard to make ends meet and to just live life. And I think finding a medium in which to tell some of those stories about our family, and in that way, rooting yourself in your culture and where you come from, and trying to continue to represent and preserve that story and the vibe of what it means to be a Lovell and a Miller and a Poe back up into the family tree, that has meaning to us because it connects us back to the generations that led to us. So as storytellers, that would be a large driving force for. Would you add?
I was going to say
shit.
something like I was going to talk about our family and
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
that, which is why we named the band Larkin Poe, who's
Yeah.
our great grand,
Right.
kind of just harkening back.
And also, so much of our formative years was spent playing music that was patently uncool. Like, to begin with, let's just set the stage. We were homeschooled, so we were already weirdies. And then add into the mix that we
Bluegrass
were
music.
We were bluegrass
hey.
musicians, like the epitome of uncool and like squareness. But we really found a lot of meaning in the music and in being old fogies at 13, 14 years old, and wanting to continue the you're laughing at me, wanting to continue that story because we learned it so deeply.
Yeah.
Like, we started off with bluegrass, and I was a competition player. I learned every fiddle tune that I could get my hands on, every tune that Ralph Stanley and Earl Scruggs wrote. Like, I went back and learned that stuff, and you feel like you're part of the story. And I think you gotta live what you know. And so we just so happen to have spent the majority of our lives at this point making roots American music, and it's what we really obviously care about, because our sweet father sent us this article about what love is in its essence. Love, in a lot of ways, is what you're willing to suffer for. Because, for instance, I know that marriage after 45 years, it's a commitment. It's something that you're willing to suffer for because you believe in whatever the outcome of that marriage is going to be, whatever love looks like over a large continuum of time. And we have time and again shown that we're willing to suffer for trying to make music. I mean, we have made pennies, you know what I mean? And it's not about that. It really is about the experience and what you feel when you have a really powerful musical moment, or when you get to play a show and you get to look at somebody in the face and share a moment with them. That is truly special. And if the medium for that is roots American music, then we're sticking with it,
Yeah. So we got time for one or two. Yeah, how about that?
Yay!
We got time for one or two questions.
Yeah.
Somebody's standing.
This is so cool, you guys.
I know this guy. He was here last week. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Cool. Good to see you. Yep. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's a family theater, but it's okay.
Thanks. Oh, it's so good to see you.
Here, here.
Oh,
Here, here.
thank you.
Another, yes, sir, right there.
All right.
Which
Yes.
which cruise is that?
Well-
Rock Legends number 8.
To begin with, we're just ecstatic to realize that we are now rock legends.
Ah!
I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. No, we're really excited. I love the fact, like you're saying, Joe Bonamassa, there's so many cruises now that are programming really cool content and providing bands like us, you know, who don't have a clear shot at like, we're going to have our hit radio single, man. Like, that's not the kind of music that we're making. It's a whole new avenue to meet people and to play music and to have really cool memories. And so we're so looking forward to it. And you got to come up and say hey on the boat, man.
Okay, so we got time for like one or two more. Yes,
Yeah.
sir, right there.
Oh, Lord.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, four greats grandfather, Larkin Poe.
He was a really cool guy in our area. He was a Civil War train wagon driver.
Yeah.
And a supply wagon driver. And they came to him after the war to get the history of what had happened at
Mhm.
Chickamauga Battlefield, which is just outside of Chattanooga
Yeah.
in Georgia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting guy.
So he provided an oral history of
Yeah,
what went on.
Precisely,
Yeah,
storyteller. But
Yeah.
also he happened to be a cousin of Edgar Allan. It was really Edgar Allan Poe. There was a connection there in our family tree, which we went rabid for naturally,
Yeah.
because we grew up
All right,
reading
so
Edgar
now-
Allan Poe, and they were like, so you might like very very distantly be related, and we loved it.
Okay, so now we got tons of hands, but I saw, yes, sir, you right there. That's your promo guy, I believe.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love. Thank you for coming tonight and for getting the tickets. It means so much. This is really special. We're not going to do a tune off of it tonight.
But we did just finish recording the new album
Here, here.
a few days ago.
But the
Here, here.
record's going to be coming out in the spring, probably towards the end of April. And we're really proud of how this one came out, and I can't wait for you to hear the songs. Yeah, in March.
Okay,
totally,
nobody said anything about a follow-up
totally. Yes.
All right, so we got time for one more. Yes, ma'am, you, right there.
Hi, I love your shirt.
YouTube.
Yeah, go on YouTube, and if you have requests, let us know, because we're always looking for good stuff to learn. So check it out. Yeah.
Oh, God, I could give you kind of.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
thank you.
All right, so I said at the beginning we would get to the Grammy stuff at the end. So tell me where you were when you heard that the album had been nominated.
Actually, I was laying in my bed, having just woken up, and our agent texted at like 6 a.m. and was like, "Raw!" And he's here tonight. And it was really that moment that we just called each other and we're like, "Are you kidding? Like, this can't be real." Because we are hardcore indie. Like, we have had our own record label since 2017. We've
Yeah.
been, selling these records out the back of our car, and you know what I mean. Like, so to be acknowledged in the ranks of this blues category was very surreal.
What? Yeah, I mean that kind of recognition is, oftentimes can be a game changer. What does just the recognition of the nomination mean to you?
Ooh. I mean, one, going into our next record, it really gave us a boost emotionally, I think.
Sure.
And definitely we have a lot of support, and we've been approached to do interviews and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's a huge boost.
And I'm going to be
for-
quite crass and say as well, our poor parents have had to have their 2 daughters for the last decade and change running around the world with very little example of the fact that we've had success. I mean, our family has been incredibly supportive of what we decided to do, and they come to our shows, and you know, I think that they're very, very proud. But to have gotten this Grammy nod for them, I think even beyond what it means for us, what it means for our folks, and it makes me like want to tear up and cry, because it really that's when you feel the power of it, because you're somebody's kid and they're like, oh, you're doing the thing, and I'm proud of you. And that was really,
and it's
really
like
cool.
we're forever, we're forever Grammy nominated.
Yep,
It's like
you are.
they can't take it away
You
from
are.
us.
That
Whatever
will,
happens.
that will be forever part of your introduction. So, more importantly, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Secondly, we're so pleased that you took the time, because I know this is a busy week for Grammy nominees, and I hope you enjoy every single bit of it, and we wish you all the best. More importantly, we want to hear a little bit of music.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Larkin Poe.